Over the years, I have come across this teachings about Jesus, where he said in the Bible, exactly in John chapter 15, verse number 5, that I am the vine and you are the branches. And it is one of the most repeated lines in the entire Bible. Even you see it on bracelets and coffee mugs and wall art. People also quote it all the time, but most of them have never stopped to ask what he was actually saying in that moment. And once you understand where he was and what was about to happen to him and the picture he was painting, this verse stops being a nice decoration and becomes one of the most important things he ever told us about how to live, especially for this time where we are entering the end of this world. Now, let me take you back to that night, and let's see how it's so important it was for them and for you and I to know and understand this teaching. Grab your coffee and let's take our Bible and go straight into the book of John chapter 15 verse number 5 NE5. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me you can do nothing. It is the last night of his life before the cross. Jesus has just finished the final meal with his closest friends in an upper room in Jerusalem. He has washed their feet. He has broken the bread and passed the cup. He has told them that one of them is going to betray him and that another one is going to deny him before the rooster crows. The mood in that room is heavy. These men can feel that something is wrong. Their teacher, the man they left everything to follow, keeps talking about leaving them. And now they get up from the table and they walk out into the night, heading toward a garden called Gethsemane, where in just a few hours Jesus will be arrested. And it is somewhere along that walk in the dark that Jesus says these words, I am the true vine and my Father is the gardener. Now here is the first thing you need to understand. Jesus did not pull this picture out of nowhere. A vine was one of the most powerful symbols in the whole nation of Israel. On the front of the temple in Jerusalem, above the main entrance, there was a massive golden vine. It was one of the most beautiful things in the entire building. People would bring gold and the craftsmen would add it to the vine, branch by branch, cluster by cluster, until it grew enormous. Every Jew knew that golden vine. The vine was the symbol of Israel itself. It was on their coins, it was in their songs. When a Jewish person thought of the vine, they thought of the people of God. So when Jesus stands there in the dark and says, I am the true vine, he is saying something that would have stopped his disciples in their tracks. He is not just describing a plant. He is taking the great national symbol of the entire nation and pointing it at himself. And to really feel the weight of it, you have to know what the prophets had said about that vine for hundreds of years. Over and over in the Old Testament, God called Israel his vine. He said he planted it. He said he dug up the ground and cleared the stones and put in the choicest plant and built a watchtower over it and waited for it to produce good grapes. He cared for that vine like a farmer who pours his whole heart into one field. But every time the story is told, it ends the same heartbreaking way. The vine produced bad fruit, wild grapes, sour grapes. The prophet Isaiah wrote that God looked for justice and found bloodshed, looked for righteousness and heard a cry instead. The vine that God planted kept failing him. So now picture this. Jesus, on his last night, takes that long and painful history, that story of a vine that kept letting God down, and he says, I am the true vine. The word true is everything. He is saying, I am the vine that finally gets it right. I am the one who will actually produce the fruit God has been waiting for. Everywhere the nation failed, I will succeed. Where the old vine was sour, I am the real thing. It is one of the boldest things he ever said about himself, and he said it quietly, in the dark, hours before he died. And then he turns to his friends and says something that must have surprised them. He says, you are the branches. Think about what that means. A branch is not a separate plant. A branch has no life of its own. It cannot pull water from the ground. It cannot make its own food. It has no roots. Everything a branch has, it receives from the vine it is attached to. The life flows up from the roots, through the trunk, out into the branch, and only then does the branch grow leaves and produce grapes. Cut the branch off, and within a day or two it starts to wither. The leaves curl. The fruit stops growing. It dies not because anything attacked it from the outside, but simply because it got separated from its source of life. That is the picture Jesus is giving us of our relationship with him. He is the vine, we are the branches, and the whole point is connection. This brings us to the word that Jesus repeats more than any other in this teaching. The word is abide. In some Bibles, it is translated remain, or stay, or live in. He says it again and again. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. In just a few sentences, he uses that word around 10 times. When someone repeats a word that many times in a short they are trying to make sure you do not miss it. So what does it mean to abide? To abide simply means to stay connected, to remain, to keep living in that close relationship and never drift away. It is not a one-time thing. A branch does not abide in the vine for an hour and then detach and go do its own thing. It stays joined every single moment of every single day. The life only keeps flowing as long as the connection stays unbroken, and that is what makes this so practical. Abiding is not some mysterious spiritual feeling you have to chase. It is simply keeping your heart turned toward him through the day. It is staying in his word. It is talking to him in prayer. It is carrying him with you into your ordinary hours, instead of only thinking about him on a Sunday. And here is where Jesus says the line that should humble every single one of us. He says, apart from me you can do nothing. Read that again slowly. Not apart from me you can do a little. Not apart from me things will be harder. He says nothing. Without that living connection to him, all our effort, all our religion, all our trying, produces no real lasting fruit at all. We might stay busy, we might look impressive on the outside, but a cut branch can still look green for a day or two even though it is already dead. The activity does not prove there is life. Only the connection does. And maybe you are wondering what that connection actually looks like in real life, because we are not literal branches, and he is not a literal plant. It looks like starting your morning with him before the noise of the day rushes in. It looks like reading his words slowly enough that they sink in and begin to shape the way you think. It looks like quick, honest prayers all through the day, in the car, at your desk, in the middle of a hard conversation, where you keep turning back to him instead of trying to carry everything in your own strength. It is not complicated. It is just 1,000 small moments of staying joined to him instead of drifting away. That is abiding. Now let us go back to the gardener, because Jesus tells us who that is too. He says, my Father is the gardener. So in this picture, God the Father is the one who tends the vineyard. He is the one walking through the rows, paying attention to every branch, knowing exactly what each one needs. And Jesus tells us the gardener does two things. He says every branch that does not bear fruit, the Father takes away. And every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, so that it will bear even more fruit. That word pruning is important, and a lot of people misunderstand it. So let me explain what it actually means. When a gardener prunes a grapevine, he takes a knife and he cuts the branch back. He removes growth. To the branch, it probably feels like loss. It feels like something good is being taken away. But the gardener is not damaging the vine. He is doing the opposite. A vine that is never pruned grows wild. It produces a lot of leaves and long shoots and very little fruit because all the energy goes into growth instead of grapes. So the gardener cuts it back on purpose. He removes the parts that are draining the plant so that all the strength flows into producing fruit. Pruning hurts, but pruning is love. The gardener only takes the time to prune the branches he believes in. And this explains something that every honest believer has wondered about. Why does life get hard sometimes, even when you are doing your best to follow God? Why do seasons come where things get cut back, where you lose things you thought you needed, where you feel stripped down to almost nothing? Jesus is telling you that the gardener has not abandoned you. He is tending you. He is cutting away the things that are taking your strength so that your life can produce something far better and far deeper than it ever could before. The pruning is not punishment. It is the proof that he sees a harvest coming. The branch that is being cut back is not the branch being rejected. It is the branch being trusted with more. So that brings us to the big question. What is this fruit that Jesus keeps talking about? Because the whole teaching is about bearing fruit. Fruitless branches get removed. Fruitful branches get pruned for more fruit. Abiding leads to much fruit. So what exactly is the fruit? A lot of people assume the fruit is just doing good deeds, or how many people you bring to church, or how busy you are doing religious things. And while actions matter, that is not the heart of what Jesus means. Listen to what he says just a few sentences later. He says, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you." And he says, "By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." The fruit, at its very center, is love. It is the kind of person you become when the life of Jesus is flowing through you. When you stay connected to him, his life starts to change you from the inside. You start to become more patient, more kind, more forgiving. You start to love people you used to find impossible to love. You start to have a peace that does not make sense for what you are going through. That is the fruit. It is the same list the Apostle Paul would later describe. The love, the joy, the peace, the patience, the kindness, the gentleness, the self-control. None of that is something you squeeze out by trying harder. It is something that grows naturally, almost without you noticing, because you are connected to the source. And this is the beautiful part. A branch does not strain to produce grapes. It does not grit its teeth and force the fruit out. The branch just stays attached, and the fruit comes as a natural result of the life flowing through it. That is what Jesus is offering. He is not telling you to work yourself into exhaustion trying to be a better person. He is telling you to stay close to him, to abide, and to let his life do in you what your effort never could. So many people are tired tonight because they have been trying to be a good branch while staying disconnected from the vine. And it cannot work that way. It was never meant to work that way. And he ties two incredible promises to this. The first one is about prayer. He says, "If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you." Now, that is not a blank check for whatever you want. Read it carefully. It is for the person who is abiding, the person whose life is so joined to Jesus that his words are shaping their desires. When you live that close to him, you start to want what he wants. You start to pray in line with his heart. And those prayers get answered because they are no longer just your wishes. They have become his will flowing through you. The second promise is about joy. Jesus says, "These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be full." This is not a teaching meant to make you anxious about whether you are fruitful enough. It is meant to fill you with joy. Think about that. On the last night of his life, hours before the most painful death imaginable, Jesus is talking about joy, and he is talking about giving his joy to us. The connected life, the abiding life, is not a heavy burden. It is the only place where real, lasting, full joy is actually found. Now, Jesus does give a serious warning in the middle of all this, and we should not skip over it. He says that if anyone does not abide in him, that person is like a branch that is thrown away and withers, and those branches are gathered and thrown into the fire and burned. That is a sobering image. But notice what it teaches. It is not about a branch that struggled or had a hard season. It is about a branch that refused to stay connected at all. A branch that walked away from the vine entirely. The danger is not imperfection. The danger is disconnection. The whole warning is just the other side of the whole invitation. Stay joined to him, and you live and bear fruit. Cut yourself off from him, and there is nothing left but a dry branch with no life in it. He is not threatening us. He is pleading with us to stay close. And here is what makes this whole teaching so powerful when you remember where he was standing when he said it. He said all of this on his way to the cross. Within hours, this very vine, the true vine, would be cut down. He would be arrested, beaten, and nailed to a cross. And on that cross, the life of the vine would pour out his own blood so that life could flow to the branches. He was not just teaching a nice lesson about plants. He was telling his friends what his death was about to make possible. He was about to give his life so that we could be permanently joined to him. The vine was about to be wounded so the branches could finally live. That is why he could call himself the true vine where the old one failed. The old vine, the nation, could never produce the fruit God wanted because it was just people trying in their own strength. But Jesus is a vine who gives his own life to his branches. He does not just demand fruit from us. He supplies the very life that produces it. That is the difference. That is everything. Every other religion in the world tells you to climb, to perform, to earn your way up to God. Jesus says, no, you are a branch. Just stay joined to me, and I will give you the life you could never produce on your own. So when you hear those famous words now, I am the vine, you are the branches, I hope you hear something far deeper than a pretty saying. Jesus is telling you the secret to everything. You were never meant to live this life on your own strength. You were never meant to grit your teeth and force yourself to be good. You were created to be a branch, joined to the vine, drawing your whole life from him every single day. Your job is not to produce the fruit by yourself. Your job is to stay connected, to abide, to remain in him through prayer, through his word, through keeping your heart turned toward him in the middle of your ordinary day. And as you do that, his life flows into you, and the fruit comes on its own. The love, the joy, the peace, the changed heart, all of it grows out of one simple thing: staying close to him. So let me leave you with this question to sit with today. Are you trying to bear fruit on your own, cut off and exhausted from carrying a weight you were never meant to carry? Or are you abiding, staying joined to the vine, and letting his life flow through you? Because he is still the true vine. He is still alive, and he is still standing there in the quiet, inviting you to remain in him. If this opened up that verse for you in a new way, take a moment to share it with someone who needs to hear it, and stay with us here as we keep going deeper into the words of Jesus.